Hello everyone, Noah Games here with another video on the remaking Getaway Shootout, the core version in Unity. Check out the first video in the series for more information about Getaway Shootout in this series. In the last video, we just completed the player respawn, and in this video we're going to be focusing on the player health, and actually more specifically, just the health in general. Because in the Getaway Shootout game, the one that I was making, I actually switched the game to be more generalized with their health system, and that way I could have not even players have health, but also objects in the scene that could be destroyed. And I found this kind of general health system to be very helpful, and that's what we're actually going to be implementing here. A health system that can be implemented on players and also objects in the scene that can be destroyed. So let's get started with actually implementing this health system. But before we do that, actually, I'm going to fix one bug that I noticed from last video. So with the player respawn, if the player dies while turning, the player will actually respawn while turning. And this is just because we're deactivating the player object, but not resetting the variables like is turning, and also all the other variables that need to be reset when a player dies. So the solution for that would just to be reset the variables on disable. So let's do that right now. So I'm just going to open up the player movement script, and this is just the code to manage a player movement, and I'm just going to copy the variables that I want to reset on disable. So on disable is Unity's callback method for when this object gets disabled, and I'm just going to disable, or I'm just going to reset all the variables that I want to be cleared. So turn right, we don't need to reset that since that'll be fine, but all the other ones I'm just going to reset them by giving it the default value, so false, and the rest just values of 0. And send that to false. So that should reset it. One thing when I was looking at this bug is that doing this won't fix it completely, because we also have another script on our player that it should be reset. So specifically, this is the player human controller that we made, and currently as a fix around, we implemented this is the left button down and is right down, and this is just a variable that we've created. And this also needs to be reset when the player is respawn. So I'm just going to set it right here, is left down, false, and is right down, false. So I'm just resetting the variables similar right here. So that should be good. Now everything is being reset. Let's just check out to see if this is working. So again, if I have player and dies while turning, see if the respawn. Oh, okay, so it seems like player is still turning even after respawn. Let me just check here quick. So it seems like this on disable is resetting. Let me just pause the video just to debug some stuff, so you don't have to watch that. Okay, so I think I figured out the issue. Two things. We still forgot to reset some variables on the player movement script, and specifically this is the constraints. So if we're in the middle of a turn while we die, we still want to reset this back to the normal rotation, which is just the unconstrained. So let me just copy that and put that in this code right here. And then the other thing that needs to be fixed still to prevent this bug is just with the player movement, or just with the player script. Right now we have respawn, which we just set the game object to true, and the game manager is handling our transform. But I'm just going to have the player script handle the rotation, and all we want to do with the rotation is just to set it back to 0. So I'm going to do rotation equals quaternion, and I think there's multiple ways, but I'll do the Euler. Let's see, Euler, and then just 0 for reset rotation. There might even be, 1 second. Sorry, the window accidentally went away. There might even be quaternion.0. No, it's fine. So reset the rotation. Now this should be back to working how we expect, like the original Getaway Shootout game. Let's just double check this now. So we have our second player. I'm just going to move it, if I can, up to the ledge, and then die while rotating. And let's see if this second player responds normally. Okay, so now it looks like it's responding fine, and we can go back to movement. So that was just a small fix, and the way we did it is just to reset the variables on disable, and make sure the rotation is 0. In the future, there might be a better way around this, because right now we are resetting a decent amount of variables, which is kind of a little clunky. So maybe there'll be a better way to actually implement this. And there's also some repeat code here while we reset some variables there. So I'll look into that, but for right now it works fine. So now, as I said earlier, to get to what we're doing today is the player health. And I want to make this just a general health system. So I'm going to create a script just called health. And so what this health system is going to be responsible for is just calculating the current amount of health, and then just giving callbacks for when it dies, and other simple functionality that a health system would want. So the first thing I'm going to do is just have public float, and this is just going to be our max health. It could also be called start health. I'll just leave it like that, and I'll give it a value of 100, just a random value. And one thing to note is in Getaway Shootout, I'm pretty sure I make these integers instead of floats, and you can do either. I think I'm just going to prefer floats while remaking this game, because it just is more general and allows for, any increment of current health. So I think that's just a more flexible way instead of having to deal with integers. So that's what we'll do. And then the other variable I'll set for right now is just current health. And on start is when we want to set the current health, and we'll set it to default to the max health. So every player, every object is spawned with the maximum amount of health it can have. And this script is actually going to be pretty simple, at least for now. We just want a function to actually decrease the health this object has. So I'm going to name a function called damage, and we'll pass in amount of damage that we want this health to take. And maybe I'll just leave that for now, but in the future, we would want other information to be passed in here, such as what weapon was damaging us, what player, and so forth. So we'll maybe implement that pretty soon. But for right now, we just want to damage the player with the amount of damage that we pass in. And that's just simply just decreasing the current health. So that seems all good for right now. I guess one thing I would want to implement quickly is just a callback when the current health is below 0. That means this object has died and we'd want to send events. So I'm just going to do something like if the current health is less than 0. Also, I'll just clamp the health so it doesn't go below 0. And also, this is when we want to notify objects that our player or object has died. And I'll make a function here, call it maybe die. I'll make it public just for other objects that I just want to call it directly. And I'll just copy this actually over here, make sure the current health is 0, and call it there. Okay, so now we have this function called die, and the one thing I was saying I want to do is have a callback, and basically we'll do it the same way how we've been doing it with other callbacks, is to do the event, public event, and then we'll have an action. And for right now, I'm just going to leave it without parameters, but as I was saying, we could pass in some information about what killed us and the players involved, but for right now I'll keep it just with no parameters. And then I'm going to name it on death, and it could be renamed to other things, and maybe I might change it in the future, but another possibility is just death event, but I'll just keep it as on death. And all we want to do is invoke that. So just call all the listeners that are listening to this on death, and the way to do that, again, is just doing this invoke. So that seems good. One thing that I'm just noticing right now, we don't want to die multiple times. Say if our current health is at 0, we die, and then we take more damage. We don't want to call die again, so I'm just going to create a variable and call it is dead. And when we die, we just want to set is dead true as well. And then also just check if we're already dead, just return. Don't do any logic there. And then I'll also make a second case here just to do the same thing. We don't want to take damage if we're dead. This is repeated because I have this as a public, because it'd be nice to have objects just called die directly, so we'll leave that. And that looks good to start with. Let's see. So the next step would to be actually implementing this with our player. And first thing I'll do for that is actually adding the script to the player object. So I'm going to jump to our prefabs and go to our player prefab. This is the object that is responsible for the player. And switching this back. So one thing we just want to do is just add this health script. And this is where we can set the max health. And as I was saying earlier, this in the original code is just integers, but I made this float, but I'm pretty sure the max health was set to 100 anyways. So we'll just keep it at 100 for the player health. For other objects, you could change this to whatever health you want. Okay, so that looks good. Now I'm just going to create like a simple script to actually test this health system out. So I'm just going to do a simple script here and call it just test damage. And then I'm just going to make this script like a trigger. So I'm doing the void on trigger enter. And basically I just want any objects that enter this zone to be damaged. So we'll do if the collision game object dot get component, and then this is where we want to see if we have that health component. Don't worry too much about this because this is just a test script. I just want to see if the health system's working. So if it has the health component, this is where we want to do that method called damage, and we'll just give it damage of 10 for right now. So I'm just going to create that test object called test, and I'll apply the test damage script on it. And the other thing is we'll just have to apply a collider to it. I'll make it a big area with the trigger set to true. And this way I'm just going to test now if that health system is interacting with this and if it decreases the health. So I'm going to click on one of our players and I'm going to check out, again, going to the debug mode to see the private variables. And I'm just going to check if the health will be decreased when we enter the zone. So if I go over here, you can already see the current health went down 10. If I leave the zone and go back into the zone, again, you decrease by 10. And we can keep doing this until we die, but that's going to take a while, so I'm just going to increase this to maybe 60 for right now. But currently nothing would happen since we're not really doing anything with the on-death events, so I'm actually just going to add that in right away. So I think a good spot to handle all this death would just be on the main player script. And we can do this, well, we'll just have to subscribe to that event. So on the start, we'll subscribe to that event and we'll call it, actually, since the player's dying and respawning, we'd probably want to do it on enable. And yeah, this is where we want to subscribe to the event, so just health. And on death, now we want to give it a function to call back. And I think since we already created this die function, I think that's a great spot to put it, so or to call back to. So I'll give it the die function. And the other thing we got to remember is to actually unsubscribe from this on-death method, and I'll do that as well with the on disable. Now, I'm just thinking through, actually, instead of doing it on disable, I think it would be a lot better actually to do it on destroy. Pretty sure that is the method. It'd be better to do it actually on destroy because we don't really care to unsubscribe and subscribe every time the object is disabled. We just want it when it's actually destroyed from the scene and created into the scene. So that's why it was seeming a bit weird to do it there. So I'm going to put this back into the start and remove those methods. Okay, so that's better. We only are subscribing when we are actually created the object and when we actually destroyed the object, instead of doing it when we've set the object active and disabled it. Okay, so that looks good. It should be calling this die function now when our health dies. So let's now test that. And again, we'll just use that test zone that we've created. So we can see when player enters it once, it should have subtracted that health. Now when we enter it again, this is where we should die, and it looks like it has died. And then it'll respawn after some time, and the player can go back to entering it. And this was just a test function. I mean, obviously, you don't need to have this be on enter. We'll have actual weapons to implement this, to take damage. But one thing I am noticing, though, is that the respawn player is not dying, and this is a similar issue to the start of the video, is we're not resetting our variables on respawn. So that'll be the next thing now to fix. So what I was noticing is that the player health, or the health object, doesn't get reset back to the max health when the player respawns. And multiple ways to do this, but I think when we call this respawn function, this was from the game manager, I think this is a good spot to actually set the health back to the max amount. So I'll do that here. Just get component health, and we want to set the health. And right now we can't do anything because we don't have any function to do that. So I'm just going to jump back to this health script, and I'm going to create a function, and maybe we'll call it maybe set max health. Maybe I'll change that in the future, the name of that, but the functionality is what I want, and I just want to set the current health back to max health, which is what we want. And I'm just going to call this function now. So set max health, and we'll call it on the respawn. And just thinking this through, this won't fully work because we have this is dead function, or is dead variable, and this will stay true even though that we increase our current health back to the max health. So I'm just going to do a check, maybe call it, or check if it is dead, set is dead true. Although I'm just thinking now, this probably is fine just to set is dead to true, or we don't want to do that. We want to set is dead to false, and something simple like that should be fine. So I'm just going to test now. So the bug that we were seeing is that the first death works fine. It's just the second death was not triggering correct. So I'm going to die once. Players died, and then respawns. Now let's see if we can die a second time. And I'm just entering that zone that we created, and it looks like it's died a second time, so that works. Okay, so that's basically everything a health system, a base health system would want. I'm just going to add in some extra functions that we'll use in future videos with power-ups to change kind of the health functionality. First one I'm going to do is create another variable and call it is invincible. I don't know if that spelling is correct. Let me check that. Okay, so it was spelled just slightly wrong, something like that. And this is going to be when we are shielded with our player power-up, and basically we don't want to take damage when we're invincible. So if we're invincible, just return, and then I'll just create the methods to set this. So set don't really know the spelling. And we'll just set it to that. So as I was saying, that would be used with like a player shield. Basically, we don't want to take damage when we're invincible mode. And let's see. One other method that I'll add just right now is to actually increase the amount of health. So I have set the max health. I'll actually create another function here, and I'll call it increase health, and I'll pass in a float, just called amount. And actually I'll add another variable called I'll call it max health, or something to that form, where I just want to say, so first we just increase the current health by the amount, and if the max health, we just want to cap the health. Maybe that's a better word for it, cap health. I don't know, I might change these variable names in the future. And if we want to cap it, we just want to set the current health to just equal the math dot maximum of our current health and also the max health. So basically this will ensure that we never go above the max health if we have this cap health variable. And I'm just going to default this to maybe true. So basically this will make sure that we stay within the bounds of our maximum health, but optionally we can disable this to go above our maximum health. Okay, so that seems like a good function for increasing health, and I'll show this in a later video. This would be good for like a health pack. Basically, you use some item to increase your health to get you back to full strength. So that seems like a good base implementation of this health script. I think I'll save it for a future video to actually pass some more interesting parameters with this death event. Basically, we'd want information such as the player that killed us, the weapon that was used, and all sorts of stuff. And I think we'll combine it all in just to like one sort of object called death info, or even damage info, some sort of nature like that. And that will just nicely be able to pass information with our scripts throughout our game, and just be a nice system like that. So I think that's where I'll stop it with this video. We got our base health system in. We did some testing of just with a simple test area that damages the player. I'm actually just going to remove this for right now since it's not really yeah, that'll be where we leave off. In the next video, I think we'll actually then get to implementing a weapon into the game. In the Getaway Shootout game, there was weapons for guns. There's also explosives, but I think we'll start off just simple with just a gun to damage other players. So I'll see you next video, and stay tuned.